How's it going, folks? Welcome back to my channel. I'm here with my glass of Coke and Fireball whiskey to show you my recent haul from Hamilton Book, okay, which I got about a week or so ago, and I got some cool stuff I'd like to show you. So let's get started. Okay, starting with television, I got season 1 of The Lone Ranger, featuring 52 classic episodes, followed by season 2 with 26 classic episodes. So I guess they slowed down for season 2. Used to love this show when I was growing up. It was on Saturday morning television for years and years and years. And I haven't seen these for a long time, so this will be fun to dig into. Who doesn't love The Lone Ranger? Come on, folks. Also from television, I got this season 1 of a Western, sort of a comedy Western called Laredo, which 1965, 66, I'm not sure. Great cast of actors. Peter Brown, who used to be in Lawman. Neville Brand, great character actor. William Smith, who's been in all kinds of biker films and just a lot of things. And Philip Carey. And I guess, I didn't know this, but I guess it started out as an episode from the classic TV show The Virginian, and it got such a great response they made it into a series. So I don't remember watching this. I think I watched it maybe 5 times when it was on, but now I'm curious about it. Plus it was cheap, $5.95. I thought I'd give it a chance. Okay, so here's some of the feature films that I got, starting with this great crime spy mystery thriller called Shack Out on 101 from 1955. Great cast of actors. Terry Moore, Frank Lovejoy, Keenan Wynn, and Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin is absolutely fantastic in this. So, yeah, I'd never seen this before. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Directed by Edward Dean, who I guess also directed a cult film called Curse of the Undead. Very cool vampire film. And let's see, the black and white cinematography is by Floyd Crosby, who is a well-known name in cinematography, and David Crosby's father, by the way. Okay. Also, this is an English film from 1967, excuse me, called Up the Junction, starring a beautiful Susie Kendall, an actress with great beauty and not much of a range, but in this film it doesn't matter because she plays a totally one-dimensional character surrounded by a lot of really interesting people who kind of make the story worth watching. Here's the plot line here. Based on Neil Dunn's iconic tale of life in London's swinging 60s, Up the Junction is a memorable slice of British cinema starring Susie Kendall as Polly and Dennis Waterman as her hard-up boyfriend Pete. This tale is of a bored young party girl, Susie, who decides to cast off her affluent Chelsea lifestyle to move to the industrialized ghetto of Battersea. This is London we're talking about. In search of realism, Polly takes a factory job and moves into a rundown apartment in the area. She soon discovers the seedier side of life in an impoverished world of crime, desperation, and questionable morality. A side of life that everyone but Polly is desperately trying to leave behind. And so anyway, it was worth seeing as what they describe here, a slice of life. All these very desperate characters with problems and dealing with poverty and all sorts of things. But there's really not much point to it other than that. It's a series of character studies with the central character being the least interesting person in the film. But I liked it, and I'm glad I saw it. Very colorful. Shows you a lot of London, so that's kind of cool. This is a movie called Violent Midnight from 1961, 63, something like that. No, 63. A murder mystery, thriller, and produced by a guy named Del Tinney, who was responsible for directing classics like The Horror of Party Beach and Curse of the Living Corpse. Okay, but he didn't direct this. It was directed by a guy named Richard Hilliard, and it stars Lee Phillips, Shepard Strudwick, James Ferrantino was in it, Dick Van Patten, and this movie seemed very familiar when I watched it. And I finally realized that I already had another copy of it, and had watched it under its alternate title Psychomania. that I got from Sinister Cinema. And anyway, not a bad movie. So, Violent Midnight. I also got this Dick Tracy serial, Dick Tracy's G-Men, which stars Ralph Byrd, who's probably the most popular Dick Tracy. And it co-stars a young actress just starting out. Her name is Phyllis Isley. And later on, a few years down the road, she changed her name to Jennifer Jones and became an Academy Award-winning actress. So I've never seen her before her Jennifer Jones reincarnation. So that'll be kind of interesting, all right? And I like serials anyway. They're a lot of fun. And finally, I picked up this fairly recent horror movie called We Have Always Lived in the Castle, starring a bunch of people I have no idea. Well, only one. Crispin Glover is in it. That's a name that I know pretty well. Tessa Farmiga, Alexandria Daddario, and Sebastian Stan. I don't know any of these people, but they're all capable actors. And the reason why I wanted to watch this is because I recently read the novel in this compilation of stories and novels by Shirley Jackson. And I've kind of been spending the summer with Shirley Jackson. That'll change your life, believe me. She's the author of The Haunting of Hill House, which I had read years ago. And she also wrote a very famous novel called The Lottery, which I had never read before. And so I've been experiencing the world as Shirley Jackson chose to see it. And she's a good writer. And I have to admit, this is a fairly good adaptation of this very strange and creepy story. So, yeah, I would recommend this. And as you know me, I don't really recommend that many modern horror films, but this was actually done well, okay? Very well. We Have Always Lived in the Castle. And finally, I picked up 3 documentaries. This is actually 2 documentaries on this disc. James Dean, The First American Teenager, and it contains 2 documentaries, one by that title, and the other is The James Dean Story, which came out in 1957, just not that long after James Dean had died, and the hysteria, the James Dean fan base was still going crazy. So this movie came out, directed by Robert Altman and George W. George, with narration by Martin Gable. And it's kind of a cool slice of culture for that time. They interviewed a lot of people from his hometown. They made it sort of a mystical meditation on the life of James Dean. But actually, there are a lot more interesting things in the documentary called The First American Teenager. It has more to do with his career, more film clips, and things like that. So, but yeah, nice to have. And I also got this compilation of 4 documentaries from the BBC about Her Majesty the Queen. And let's see, we have Picturing Elizabeth, Her Life in Images, Fashioning a Monarch, all about her clothes, which I did find that fascinating, Her Passions and Pastimes, which is a pretty good one, and then finally, When the Queen Spoke to the Nation, which had a series of her Christmas broadcasts, the very famous broadcast she did when Princess Diana passed away. And of course, in the BBC documentaries, they have more people talking about the Queen than they actually show the Queen. But I'm very happy to have this. Okay. And finally, I picked this up about the Beatles, how the Beatles changed the world, and this is really cool. This is 109 minutes of film clips, interviews, all sorts of musical performances about the Beatles, and it's making me realize how much I've missed Beatlemania. You know, remembering that when I was growing up, it was such a big part of life that I kind of, it was always part of life, and I've always kind of taken it for granted. Now, all these years later, I'm finding myself more and more interested in the Beatles and in their music. So I've been collecting some of their music passionately recently, so I might do a video all about the Beatles. So we'll see. Anyway, that is my haul from Hamilton Video. Let me know what you think. Have a good evening, and I will talk to you soon.